Hello, I'm Wes Crawford, and I'm going to explain a little bit, give an overview of my game Engine Thieves, the Andrews Railroad Raid of 1862. This is most commonly known as the Great Locomotive Chase. One of the raiders wrote a book with that name of his experiences, and Disney made a 1956 film on the subject. So, very quickly, a little history behind this. General Mitchell, Union General Mitchell, wanted to advance on Chattanooga and cut the Confederacy in half as far as railroad connections. And a Union spy named James Andrews came up with an idea. Said he did a lot of traveling in the South, did a lot of black market peddling, and he said, "Look, if we could cut the railroad connection between Atlanta and Chattanooga, you would be safe to do such a raid because reinforcements and supplies could not come up from Atlanta." And so that was the plan. They got about 24 raiders sneaking behind enemy lines over the course of a few days, trying to make it down to Marietta, and where they were going to all gather. 20 of them made it, and on the train, and they paid for tickets actually to travel northward out of Marietta. They got to Big Shanty, where everybody got off the train to have breakfast at a hotel. And the raiders, acting like they didn't know each other for a while, they took over the train and started heading towards Chattanooga, which is over here, with the intent of burning bridges, cutting telegraph wire, and damaging track so that a response would not work to reinforce Chattanooga. And when the Chattanoogan Confederates, Chattanooga was actually not defended as strongly as the Union had thought, and they sort of started panicking when they saw Mitchell's army head towards them, and they actually sent a lot of supplies southward. So the problem is, and people too, and the problem is this is a single line connecting the cities. And so there was a lot in the Raiders' way. So let me show you how the map board goes. Each rail space is 1 mile, and it goes south to north, then starts down here, south to north, and south through Chattanooga, and they wanted to meet General Mitchell in Bridgeport. So this is the objective of the Raiders, and this is a solo game at this point, 2-player option coming. And you're in control of the Raiders, and you want to, as I said, do as much damage as you can to get victory points to then have the stolen train taken all the way to Bridgeport. And the problem for the Raiders also, they ended up between a rock and a moving hard place. And the engineer and the supervisor and the conductor all started running after the train after it was captured and stolen. And they were able later to get a pole car, and in history they took over this Yonah train is the name of it, and followed them and chased them. And the same while, all these extra trains were coming south and getting in the way. So the only way they could be passed is to go through these stations. So anyway, looking at this map a little bit more, blue rails are bridges which can be burned. Red are dangerous track, and you do not want to go fast over that unless you have to, because you have to roll to see if you derail. And these are stations, and a typical station will have 4 areas. One for the Raiders train, if they're in the station. One for Confederate units. Not all stations have them. They're upside down, so we don't know what the strength of is at any station. We know they're particularly strong in Big Shanty because there was a big training camp there, and in Chattanooga, and pretty strong up here in Kingston, which is a very major station, as was Dalton right here. And so then over here, the challenges that they might meet, various encounters in a station. And then if they, the raiders can successfully meet these challenges, you put those counters over here in the successful challenges box. So show you a little bit more over here. We have a time record track on this mat, and I'm pointing over here. It starts at 6 a.m., goes through the day to 4 p.m., and the red text tells significant things that happen that change the environment of the game at that point. And what is very important are Andrew's, the leader's, persuasion cubes. You can allocate those to help meet some of the challenges. He was very charismatic, and he is really necessary to get through with this game. And we also have over here a alert levels track. You start at alert level 1. And if you get up to 6, you start losing a persuasion cube for each alert level past that, with a maximum of 10. This is decorative, but it's helpful to put some of the extra trains that might come in the game there. And we have over here the pursuit cards. And so here are the conductor. Their names are Fuller, Murphy, and Kane. And we have little counters for them, and it shows what method of transportation they're using. They're running at first. And as you see over here in Big Shanty, there's a little run marker for them, a little run counter. This is the General, the name of the train that was stolen, the engine. All the engines had names pretty much. And then we'll look over here, and this is the card for the General, which is stolen. We have a counter for Andrews, the leader. He's up in the engine. And so in this case, 2 engineers. Behind that is the tender, so you can imagine this is a train, and it has wood cubes. You do have to watch your mileage, how you drive this train, and you expend wood cubes every time you move. And over here at the top, we can actually fill back up completely Cass Station, Tilton, and Boyce. Okay, and then following in our train, we have 3 boxcars. You can spread them out if you want, but you don't have to. This is boxcar number 3 with all the raiders. And there's no other differentiation between raiders, but for historical flavor, we do have their pictures on it, besides the engineers and Andrews. Okay, and we go over here, and the 3 pursuers, Fuller, Murphy, and Kane, do have some special abilities that can kick in at certain points in the game. And finally, not finally, we have Marietta cards, Big Shanty cards, and Moon Station cards. And when you start the game, you can just begin it without picking any cards if you want, or you can pick one of the 5 Marietta cards by chance. And one will give you a little more information about what's ahead, and one will allow you to gain 2 raiders that did not make it back. 2 of these, one being an engineer, overslept and missed the raid, and 2 were not captured, but were forced at Chattanooga on their way down to join the Confederates when they said the plan was to come south to join the Confederacy in Atlanta and sign up, but they said, nope, we need you here. So if you want to start the game and get a little help with some risk, you can draw a Marietta card, and you can keep drawing up to all 5 of them, but you have to pay the consequences as necessary. And according to a Marietta card, you might have to pick a Big Shanty card, and that's something that could, and actually one card, something that did happen that was scary for the raiders right at the beginning. And at Moon Station, you'll need to pick a Moon Station card if you want to damage the track, because there are tools. There's 3 cards there, 3 cards at Big Shanty, and by chance you're going to take time, but you can always get, some good tools or something too. All right, so the heart of the game are the movement and action cards in general, and they're color-coded. I believe, let's see, there's 20. And each one at the top tells what you're doing, the kind of action, and then there's a number, 5, 10, or 15 underneath. That tells how many minutes it takes to do it. Blue are movement, challenges and counters. You're going to come across many challenges and counters, and you'll need to play that card. It takes 5 minutes for each one. You can take on wood at a wood station and allocate it for 5, 10, or 15 minutes. Or emergency wood, if you really need it, helps out a little bit. The orange cards are things you can do: damage track, cut the telegraph wire, set fire to the bridge, or attempt to. In history, it was very difficult to do so, and it's difficult in the game, but it can be done. And those are orange. Those are things that'll give you points. Combat, violent kind of actions are red. And then this sort of limey green looking thing is other things you can do to slow pursuers. Then we call the black bands up here. These cards are sort of towards the end game. If you've run into a problem and you need to remove a barrier or abandon the train and hopefully escape. And finally, there's one card, rest and plot, and you can gain back some persuasion cubes or lower the alert level by playing this if you don't move or do anything else, and then it's only used one time per game. Now, talking about the train schedule was not really known accurately by the raiders because of all these extra chains and things coming along. And you might see here there's A, B, C, D, E, and F. These are train schedule stacks, and this is where they start on the board. Underneath each of these letters, and these are only ID letters, there are 4 counters. And there's either a black line, which just wastes 5 minutes of your time to find out about that encounter, or there's an hourglass, which will ruin the rest of your turn, waste it for that turn. And by the way, I didn't mention, each turn you pick 15 minutes worth of cards, and you pick them in order, with the only exception there being you can replay a card that's facing. Your current card can be replayed. Of course, that might take up more time, and you don't ever make it to a bottom card out of your stack of 15-minute cards. And for all these train schedule stacks, the counters are upside down. You can't see what they are until you face those challenges, usually in a station, sometimes between stations. And it is possible for a southbound train to run into the general. So you have to watch out for that. And anyway, going on more in the encounters, if it's a green circle, you'll actually roll a die, and 1 through 6 has a different result. And it's usually something that helps the raiders a little bit, but always costs a little something like a persuasion point. And finally, the last one is a red flag. And that means there's danger up ahead or a train coming up ahead. So you'd play it over on the time track the next turn. And if you leave a station with a red flag, you lose an alert level. So you do not want to lose all your persuasion cubes. And the reason is any train you meet on the journey and every station has a challenge that has to be rolled. And you'll see a number next to every station. So say it's a 6. Now, when you move into a station, you get a free roll, meaning it doesn't take any extra time. And the way you do a challenge is you'll roll 2 dice. And in this case, if it was at Ackworth, you need a 6 or above. So if you get 6 or above, you've entered into the station, you've bluffed your way. Andrews would tell everybody he was carrying munitions and gunpowder to General Beauregard, and this was right after the Battle of Shiloh, so that story seemed to make sense, and nobody wanted to get near such an explosive train. So it usually worked for him. In this roll, though, if you get less than a 6, in this case in Ackworth, you get one more roll to try again. And this is where you then want to gamble your persuasion points, and for each persuasion point, you would then cube, that is, you would add 1 number to the die roll. And you have to choose how many you're going to use before you do that second die roll. But it can help you in most cases. And if you fail on that second one, you'd turn over a Confederate unit and it would fire at you. And I'll tell you about combat in just a minute. So let's just do a sample turn very quickly. And I'm going to look at the movement cards. I want to move 2 spaces up to Moon Station. I'll move for 5 minutes. And this will be the first card I would play. Now I have to put them all together first. And I will go medium speed. It allows me to go 2 spaces and expend 3 wood. And of course, like I said, I have to commit my cards. I'll do a challenges and encounters because I want some good tools at Moon Station. This is the only other station that has cards, by the way. And then say I get lucky and get what I want the first time. I'll move for 5 more minutes. And of course, 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15. So I'll play these right here. This is the setup of the train schedule stacks. You don't need it after you set up. So we could play them here, commit them there. And so for 5 minutes, I was going to move. I'll take the general and go 1, 2. And if we look back over here, that costs me 3. I start with 30 wooden cubes out of 45 available. And so I put took 3 cubes out of the tender. The next 5 minutes, I'll use the challenges and encounters card. And by the way, I have to face the challenge of Moon Station, the station challenge first. And I just need to roll a 6 with 2 dice. I'll use the white ones. And I got an 11, so I'm fine. All right. So then for my green card there, the challenges and encounters, in this case, all I want to do is pick a card. And it says no effect. Okay. Say, generally I'm going to want to spend 5 more minutes and replay that card, and then I'll be done with my turn. And but say just for the sake of this play here, say, okay, I don't care about damaging track. I'm going to then put this card back and play the second set of 5 minutes, which is not good light. Sorry about that. Now I'm going to go fast. I'm going to go 4 spaces for 6 cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll take 6 cubes out. 2, 4, 6. And that's the end of the Raiders' turn. So now we have the Confederates' turn. And this is what you do there. You take their transportation type, in this case they're running. And if you look on their pursuit card over here, it says for 15 minutes they can only go 1 space. So they go right here. They're still south of Moon Station. And now when they get to any station, they can change to a pole car. It's, you know, a little car on a track that they propel with a pole, and they can go faster with that. And like I said, they can get to any other Confederate train, and there are some special ones with the dark gray that are already on the board over here. And if they do that, they can commandeer the train and chase them, and that's a whole lot faster. So anyway, they do that. Now we have to see if we have any light gray trains, which are found in the train schedule stacks. If any of those are visible, they'd move separately. But we don't have any since it's the first turn. So what we now do is go through the train schedule stacks, and we roll 1 black and 1 white die. If the black die is 4 through 6, the train schedule stack moves. If it's not, it stays in that station. So I'm rolling, I got a 6 and a 1. So it does move. We look up here for southbound trains, which are just going more regular and slower. They're not pursuit trains like the northbound ones are. We look at 4, it's going slow, and it goes 4. So we move it, 1, 2, 3, 4. We still don't know what's there though. And then we'll do the same for Letter B, we go in alphabetical order. C, D, and E, all these different stacks, and they'll be moving south. And again, wow, if you meet them in between, I mean, besides the possibility of a collision, you have to then convince any trains in the stack to go backwards. It can get a little hairy. Anyway, otherwise you can meet them at a station and just get them onto side railings and continue on your way is the thing. Now, another important part of this are the telegraph stations. There were actually only 4 telegraph stations. Of course, the telegraph became very important in the Civil War. Marietta and Kingston and Dalton, this is Dalton, and Chattanooga. And they're all across the bottom by chance here. All right, you know they're a telegraph station because they have a yellow line around it. But then a yellow line travels all the way up like that. So any telegraph message that is sent from Marietta goes all the way to Kingston, to Dalton, to Chattanooga. And if and likewise, any telegraph coming out of Kingston will go to all the northern stations. So the raiders have to be cutting wires north of each station to keep a message from going through, because anybody pursuing them, like Fuller Murphy Kane, they will send a message if they get to a telegraph station. And if that happens, Chattanooga military train is activated with soldiers, and barriers go up in all the telegraph stations, and alert level goes up, all kinds of stuff. So that's pretty catastrophic. And so I said I'd mention about combat, so I'll do that real quickly. So let's move this up here and say fail the challenge. We turn this over, and in this case, it's a 15. So most of the Confederate combat units, and really not all combat units, sometimes these are just train workers with some kind of tool to hit somebody with, or they could be soldiers training, any number of things, regular combat troops. So they vary widely from actually the smallest is 2, a strength of 2, up to 20. So you don't know what you're going to run into. For every 5 strength points a unit has, they get 1 die roll. And if you have less than 5, you still get 1 die roll. So what there would do, I'm going to use this chart. You take the black and the yellow and the red dice, and you throw all 3. I got 4 on the black and 1 on the yellow. So nothing happened. Nothing's in that square. But on the red, I got a 1. And if something had happened to anybody, it would be captured. The numbers represent how many raiders are affected, and then you see what the result is. Now, if you want to take the time, you can re-roll the red die for every person affected. But so that was 1 roll, and they get a second roll. And this time we got, what is this? Okay, it's a 4 and a 5 and a 5. Okay, so now we look at 4, go over to 5. 4 raiders are affected, and 5 means they were killed. So we have to go back over to our train. Obviously, we don't want to kill the leader, and we don't want to kill any of the engineers. So we'll just take any 4, like say they're all the same. I took a stack of 4. I'll put them over in the killed box. So whatever points we end up with, we've already lost 4 raiders, and that's 2 points per person. Double if you're an engineer, and triple if it's Andrews. So they get 1 more roll, because they have 15, 1 for every 5. And we have 3, 6, and 3. So now we have 3, 6, that's 3 more, and 3, they're wounded. So what do we do with the wounded? They can't shoot back, but they're not counted as killed or anything. We turn 3 of them over, and we have a generic wounded side, the wounded soldier there. And so that's their status at this point. So we started with 20 raiders, and now we lost 4 and 3, so we're down to 13. So you see, this can be pretty deadly. You want to avoid combat in most cases. So say they had just done a movement into there that took 5 minutes, or just say as an example. So then they would have cards for 10 minutes more of actions. They can leave. They got shot at. If they had a movement card up next, it depends on what they would have committed to. They can leave, or at any point, they can pick a combat card out. And a combat means they get to shoot at the Confederates, and the Confederates shoot back for just the use of that card. Now, the problem with a factor of 15 is that the only way you defeat the combat units is to actually get as many hits in your turn as there are strength points on that. So if 15 hits and say they only have 2 rolls, that's pretty impossible. So they'd want to get out of there if at all possible to do. So they probably would not want to do combat. You do get victory points for destroying combat units, but and it doesn't vary according to how strong they are, because that wasn't their mission. And we really don't know what strength of 15 represents. 10 people with wrenches, or that got the jump on them, or, actual soldiers, or what in this case. So that's fairly extensive overview. We do have markers for burned bridges and different things you can do, the track, and for other kinds of things that happen during combat if you get pinned or something, for instance. But otherwise, that pretty much gives a run-through, an overview of this game. Thank you very much.